Hey comic fans, Dave here at Ground Zero, and it's a beautiful Wednesday morning, the best I think we've seen in a long time. Because let's face it, Texas saves all its best weather for December. Well, that makes it a perfect day to trek into your local comic book store. But Dave, you say, is it going to be worth it? Do you have lots of great books there on the shelf for me to choose from? Oh yeah, we absolutely do. This is a big week for comics. I know last week kind of on the wimpy side, but this week it's out with the wimpy and in with the hefty, including a whole slew of number one issues. So we better hurry, see if we can't get through the highlights. We're going to start off with Miles Morales, Spider-Man number one. Now, I know this isn't the first Miles Morales. It's certainly not the first Miles Morales Spider-Man number one, but it's got a gorgeous cover and a big honkin' numeral number uno on the cover because let's face it, Marvel owns that number. And it's their way of reminding you that this is a good place to jump onto this book if you haven't been reading it. So there you go. Next up, a book that kind of tickles me because it is Frank Miller Presents Frank Miller's Pandora. Yeah, Frank Miller Presents is loosely the publishing name of this company, but that's the way we get Frank Miller's name on the cover twice, because if you're equal parts genius and crazy, you can do that. I'm definitely going to read this one because I want to know what he's up to. Next up, third on the list, is a book you didn't know you were waiting on, but once you see it, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, I was absolutely waiting on this book. What took it so long? Because it is from Dynamite Publishing, and it's Gargoyles number one. See, I told you, if you're a child of the 90s, you loved the Gargoyles, and now we finally get them in a comic book of their very own. So you're welcome, everybody, and thank you, Dynamite Press. Still several more to go of varying degrees of interest, including Radiant Pink, fresh on the heels of Radiant Black and Radiant Red. I'm sure soon to be followed by Radiant Blue, Radiant Green, Radiant Brown, Radiant Fuchsia, because there's a lot of colors in the spectrum, and as long as you keep buying them, they're going to keep churning these out, people. Another one from Image Comics and Tim Seeley is Hexware. I really don't know anything much about this book, but very pointy hat, so I'm going to say witch of some sort. Blue witch, maybe? I don't know. But it's here. It's new. Give it a try if you want. And one that my daughter is picking up, so if you want to know what's particularly cool about it, come in and ask her. It's called Quested. It is from a relatively new publisher called Whatnot. They've got several high-profile projects lined up, but this is your first chance to really get a good look at them here, and it's called Quested, and it's in new this week. Not to be outdone, even manga is getting in on the number ones. We get Kamen Rider Kuga number one. Yeah, I mean, that's two U's. You know it's serious business when they pony up for the extra U, and it's brand new this week. Still several more numero unos to go with Thanos Death Notes. Now, the nice thing about this is there will not be a number two. That's right, Thanos saw it and killed it, and Marvel does what Thanos says. It's a one-shot, people. So, and if you need your Thanos fix, it's right here in a nice, cool, reddish cover. Also from Marvel, Dark Web number one. I know that's kind of hard to read, but it is really called Dark Web number one. It's actually Dark Web Dust number one because it's actually one of 5 number ones that'll be part of this crossover. All takes place over one evil-filled night with Spider-Man and the X-Men. It's going to end with Dark Web Dawn number one, which gives you the answer to the trivia question of if you start a series with number one, can you end it with number one? The answer is yes, and that is today's lesson in Marvel math. Just a couple more, at least in the number ones, to talk about. Dark Crisis number one. Actually, Dark Crisis Warzone number one. Because I guess occasionally DC ponies up the royalty fee to Marvel to be able to use the number one on their covers. And they've done several for Dark Crisis. This just happens to be this week's model. And a book that doesn't have a number one on it, but could, because it is the Noctera Val Special. Any other publisher would have put a big, giant number one on the cover. They certainly could have, but instead there is no number at all. They're calling it exactly what it is. It's a special. It does lead into some storylines. It's going to be happening in Noctera, which is a great book if you haven't been reading it. So kudos to Scott Snyder and Tony Daniel for not falling into that number one trap. Reward them by buying this book. One I will mention that actually is not new this week, came in last week, but we didn't get very many copies. We were shorted. Got the rest of them in this week, so if you're local, now you get to come in and pick up Justice Society of America. This book is great. If you didn't already pick it up, go in and buy a copy because it's Jeff Johns doing what Jeff Johns does really, really well. I liked it, and you will too. Also, now that it is December, every December I get a really kind of stern email from Batman reminding everybody he does not smell. And honestly, if you're going to insist on singing that song, he wants you to know he's got Santa's file and he's not afraid to use it. You have been warned, people. And honestly, don't look surprised. Did you really think for an instant that Batman didn't have a file on Santa? Santa knows this. He knows when he leaves your house. What does he find on your rooftop? That's right, Batman. Batman there to check his bag, make sure he's leaving more presents and he's not taking anything. So when you get up on Christmas morning and you've got more stuff and you're happy and you're excited, don't forget to say a little thanks to Batman. He takes care of you. That's a fact. So coincidentally, speaking of Batman, we do have a new issue of Batman's main title this week. Definitely getting into the Christmas December motif with lots of white, I guess. But that's in this week, new issue of that. And coincidentally, we get a new issue of Spawn, which is probably going to make you think, wow, Dave, that's two great taste. Spawn, Batman, I wonder how they taste together. Next week, you're going to find out, because next week we finally get in the much anticipated Batman Spawn one-shot. So you'll have the choice of Batman on the cover or Spawn on the cover, or one of 20 other covers, because this is a big deal, people. I know your Aunt Edna is absolutely excited for this book. She is ready to rock and roll with Batman Spawn. You should be too, and that comes out next week. You're welcome, again. Okay, so if you have all these number ones, you're going to have to go through some number twos. Batman himself actually gets a number 2 this week with Batman the Joker, the Deadly Duo. The number 1 did phenomenally well. Everybody loved the art. They liked the story. They just liked the fact that it had Batman and the Joker together in one book. And so the second issue of that is in this week. As is the second issue of Star Wars Hidden Empire. They are churning out those Star Wars titles, people. Who can keep up? You need a checklist, but this is one of them. So I guess Star Wars is printing money until it's not. Also, Secret Invasion. Not much I can say about Secret Invasion number 2, except that it's here. Can say plenty, however, about Fantastic Four number 2. Now, I know this is like the 18th Fantastic Four number 2 that they've done, but this one is really good. I know it's early, but I'm really liking this one better than Dan Slott's run. And honestly, the covers alone are worth buying these books, and the interior is really pretty darn good too. So if you want to read what I'm reading, you're going to be reading Fantastic Four. Okay, so Christmas is coming up. Everybody loves big honking hardcover books for Christmas. And now we get a couple new this week. We've got a King in Black omnibus hardcover, and there's a big Donny Cates Venom hardcover coming out next week. But also then this week we get Black Panther, the Christopher Priest run. Now, Black Panther has always been a great character. He's been a great character for a very long time, but it was really when Christopher Priest came along, they took it up an extra notch. And man, if you haven't read these are really quite good, certainly very popular. It's a big omnibus format, and it's in this week. So visit your local comic shop and take a look at that one, or put it on your Christmas list. Also, we get in the second volume of Spriggan, so that would be Spriggan Volume 2. Keeping up with both themes. Not to mention that it is a really big honking book. So, mucho manga? Yes, I think it is. Last one I'm going to mention today is also a volume 2, but it smells bright, shiny, and clean because it is Monsters number 2. I love this book. If you're, for all literate comic fans out there, this is a book you should be reading. Now, carry it in paperback. There's lots of paperbacks out. So if you want to go the cheaper route, there definitely is that. I highly recommend it. Or if you want to do the big, nice hardcover route, well, the second one is in. You've been waiting for it. I've been waiting for it. And it's finally here, as is the month of December. I know we're all excited. We obviously hope you get everything you want in this holiday season. But of course, as always, remember, it's not about having what you want, people. It's about wanting what you have. Stay safe, be careful, visit your local comic shop. We love you, and have a great week.